we created a beast, right? We created this monster or this god or this, I don't know how I want to call it. As humans, we need to build, we need to grow, we need to be more productive. And so this is the ultimate creativity product. AGI is here. Doesn't mean like there's a transient like AI who's on the internet trying to like F us. Just means that AI is at the point where like it's as intelligent as a human. The reasoning capability is as good as the best humans. And then it can use any tools. The tools give them digital hands. AGI is here. It isn't trying to be provocative. It's trying to like make people understand that the AI is capable of being a digital human online. Now, what does that mean once someone knows that?
Welcome to Artificial Happiness, a show about fulfillment in the age of AI. I'm Duncan CJ. A few days ago, a company raised $30 million at a $250 million valuation. Nothing strange there until you learn how. The AI ran its own fundraising. The founder just showed up for signatures. That founder is my guest today, Cera. Ben spent years running global teams for Travis Kalanick at Cloud Kitchens. Then he walked away to build alone. On a drive from LA to San Francisco, he asked himself one question. Forget what the market wants. What do you want to build? The answer became Polsia, AI that builds and runs your company while you sleep. At the time of recording, it has, I think it's 8,684 active companies on its platform, and it's approaching an 11 million annual run rate. One founder plus AI, 0 employees. He says AGI is already here. He says the thing left that matters is taste. Your thesis is, and correct me if this is wrong, I heard this, I think it was on a podcast, which I think was back in the end of 2025. So in the world of AI, that's a long time ago. If you're starting a company in 2026 and you haven't made it 80% AI autonomous, you're going to lose. Not because your product is worse, but because someone with the same idea will move faster and spend less.
I think it's true, and it's getting more and more true as time goes by, right? I think that, 80-20 is like it's like this famous like proportion, effort versus value. Is it exactly 80%? I don't know. It's more like a figure of speech of saying that like, what AI is extremely good at today is operations. It's just doing the grunt work without complaining, doing workflows repeatedly that, that most of the time work as much as an AI as a human would do, right? It's like humans make mistakes. Like, yeah, AI makes mistakes, but it can correct itself. It can like run into loops until it fixes it. And so the idea is that like if you start a company today and you always think you have a good idea, but usually the ideas are, anyone can have the same idea. Like, even Polsia, there's a bunch of people that like are starting to release similar products, and sometimes they had the idea at the same time as me. OpenClaw, like when it released, I was like, oh, it's kind of like my idea, and I was like, whatever. It's like so many people are exploring the same thing. It doesn't really matter. What matters is speed of execution and speed of go to market. And so AI here is very good because it helps you go faster. And even what I would say, and that's what Polsia is really good at, is it's not even the speed of execution of your company. It's like the speed of execution of learning. And since, for example, Polsia can help you launch a bunch of companies really rapidly, you make mistakes more rapidly until you stumble upon, through your learnings, the idea that works, the idea that you're passionate about. And actually, Polsia, I built it in 2025. I had the idea early 2025 when I was in Japan, actually, at Mount Fuji. I had this revelation where like I was like, I need to build company OS, an OS that would help me run my company. It wasn't even called Polsia at the time. But after that, I ended up building 3 or 4 more businesses, AI businesses during that year that taught me a lot about, okay, yes, you can build fast, but then like it's also a grind to make it tasteful, to go to market, the marketing. And then sort of like Polsia emanated from that. I was like, okay, you know what? Like it's getting boring. It's like you can build so many things, but then like it's really, there's a grind into like getting it to market and pushing it to the boundaries. And so the 80% is required to learn fast. The 80% is required to run an existing business that works well. And the last 20% is what's important, because end of the day, businesses sell to other humans. And so there's another human on the other end that like will be sensitive to the right messaging, the right marketing, the right price point for the service, and honestly, pure AI marketing is actually very expensive, because pure AI can run ads and email. You start noticing if it's if it's, AI marketing. So at least on the marketing side, I really believe that humans are really needed, but AI is going to augment you. It's going to make you more efficient. It's going to make you build faster. It's going to make it less tiring to run a business.
Let's discuss that 20%. You mentioned sort of marketing, but taste, creativity, direction, guiding the AI towards something that's meaningful to other humans. Can you give me an example of what that 20% might look like, using your company as an example?
I mean, I spend a ton of time on growth and marketing, like an absurd amount of time. So, you know, like the launch that I did, right? It looks like I just tweeted. So much thinking, so like doing an amazing video, like the narrative, the like, preparing it, the sequencing, making sure there's views, pinging all my network. It's just a lot of preparation, and I know, I mean, that wasn't like months of preparation, but it's just like, it takes time to make that right. AI raising the round for Polsia, that was, it ended up happening, but initially trying to be provocative, trying to like sort of like say, hey, I have a company that builds companies, so that's crazy. Well, also, I'm going to make it raise around. And so it's like sort of like pushing the boundaries. But initially, it was mostly from a marketing perspective. It ended up working because investors love builders that are building on the edge and are building interesting things. And it's like, yes, they were talking to an AI, and like the AI was giving them a lot of information, but then they were like, it's growing, I want to invest. But it's like this idea of like, how do you make yourself stand out in the sea of products, right? And offerings. And so those are a couple of examples of like, marketing, but like, I spend, right now I'm starting a YouTube channel. The amount of time it takes to start a YouTube channel. When I say YouTube channel, it's not starting a channel. It's just like doing amazing content that people want to watch. Doing customer interviews. Like there's a lot of like human stuff, essentially all the human stuff. Like whenever I'm talking to a human, whenever I'm talking to a customer, whenever I'm like, I just launched like a missionary group on WhatsApp and I need to manage it, and I need to like, just all this human to human stuff. That takes a lot of time. However, AI customer support, like all of Polsia is just AI running the show. AI self-healing, the AI, Polsia self-healing itself. Sort of like all this stuff, you kind of set it once and then you monitor it, right? Of course, you have to monitor it and you have to make it better and you have to add new features, but I would say like, the 20% is marketing, the 20% is like which features to add, the 20% is like, pricing, like right now I'm lowering the pricing of Polsia because I believe Polsia should be available to everyone. And so I don't want to make it cost prohibitive, right? Because my mission is to make everyone a founder. I think everyone is a founder, and I want everyone, I think a society filled with builders and founders at every level of society makes a vibrant society, because everyone gets educated on business. There's no more like people are like, oh, I don't know, I'm complaining all the time. Like for example, in France, a country of amazing people with amazing culture, and it's like they're all complaining because the system is set up in a way that like doesn't incentivize builders. Well, a product like Polsia maybe can push people to be builders. So anyway, so long story short is like the 20% is really all this subjective thing, right? Someone else can build a Polsia, but it's like we'll have the same name, we'll have the same narrative, we'll have the same marketing, we'll have the same pricing, we'll have the same feature set, like the UI and all this stuff do matter, right? Everything matters.
Talk to me about that vision. What does that look like if millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people are empowered to build, to create, to produce? What does that look like in society if you kind of stretch that out?
I mean, let's go to the opposite scenario, right? So first of all, we created a beast, right? We created this monster, this like, or this god, or this, I don't know how I'm gonna call it, that we, as humans, we can, we just like, we need to build, we need to grow, we need to be more productive, and so this is the ultimate creativity product, right? But it is replacing humans. AGI is here means, doesn't mean like there's a transient like AI who's on the internet trying to like F us, right? Just means that like AI is at the point where like it's as intelligent as a human, meaning like you can give it anything, any problem, and it can reason really well on it. And if you've seen like, If you look at Polsia, you give it a company and like it starts thinking, like you read the thinking process and it's like, it's really smart, you know? It reasons on the problem, right? And then second, so it can reason really well. And we all know that we all use Claude or OpenAI, whatever, like we're kind of impressed with its reasoning capabilities, right? And yeah, recently GPT 5.5 literally solved like a math problem that like for 50 years we can solve, right? It's like, we had that level of reasoning. So like, to me, that's the reasoning capabilities as, at best, as good as like the best humans, I would say. And then it can use any tools. So you give it an MCP, you give it a tool, it can figure it out. It understands, you give it a definition, and it can use the tools. So the tools give them digital hands. So what that means is that AGI is here. It isn't trying to be provocative. It's trying to like make people understand that like we have an AI. The AI is capable of being a digital human online. Now, what does that mean once someone knows that? So they could raise $1 billion, create a hedge fund, and milk and then tell AI and create like orchestration of AI agents that like just milk every last margin in the economy and just reap all the profits, right? That's one path. And that path means that like people start talking about, well, yes, everyone's going to be fired. Yes, but there's going to be government welfare. What is, sorry, there's going to be like welfare. It's like a universal basic income. We'll find solutions. People, what is that? That sounds like communism, right? sounds like the state's giving stipends. Hey, here's a food stamp, right? No offense to communism. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that like it's not really what has been proven to make people happy and societies vibrant. And I think that, so on the one end, this is the one path that like you can see as a possibility, and people have been talking about it. On another path, I built Polsia. By the way, those mission statements, these grand missions, they don't come before. They don't come when you don't have influence, when you don't have a product that impacts a lot of people. It comes when you start having influence, when you realize people start listening. Like you invited me on a podcast because you're interested in what I'm to say. Now when you start having an audience, you start having a responsibility on what you're doing, because now people are listening, people are using your product. So now, I start thinking a lot about, okay, cool, all right. So I have a lot of ideas of how the world should be, but like if you're nobody, you're just a guy in a cafe drinking a beer and then like smoking cigarettes and talking about how you would see things change. But once you start having a hint of maybe I could have influence, then you have a ability to really think through what are your morals, how you see the world, how you want to impact it. As a founder that has failed so many times, that has had a few successes thanks to all the failures, I see my life as like a blessing. Not because I made a lot of money, not because I was successful all the time. It was actually a lot of grind, but because I think entrepreneurship teaches you about so many things. It makes you explore things, it makes you think, it makes your brain, it makes your brain, active, and makes you a more interesting human. And I'm not saying about tech entrepreneurship. It could be like being a creator. I think Instagram made it very interesting for people to become entrepreneurs and like start creating content and start thinking about how to make people laugh, how to make people think. Now that like I see what Polsia is capable of, and I talk to my customers, and it's always the same story. It's like someone who's like always had this idea, who has a job, who on the side like gave to Polsia their one idea they had 2 years ago, and suddenly Polsia executed. It didn't magically build the company and make $1 million, but it executed their vision and showed them, okay, here it is. So what do we do next? And tomorrow I'll do this. And then after tomorrow I'll do that. And let me ping some people and let me run some ads. And I research competitors. Here's the pricing. And I set up Stripe account. And I set up like, people are like, what the hell? Like they don't like, oh, well, I'm going to be a big millionaire. They're like, this idea in my head is now in this world. Awesome. So now okay, how much is it? Oh, it's not that expensive. Oh, it's like the cost of like a meal. Okay, well, for a month. So my customers become builders. Now, are they now all rich? No, but they are builders, and they start playing with it. They start asking Polsia. They start being educated on engineering, on marketing, on like new features they need, on like new capabilities they need to build their ideas, their business, their project, their art project, whatever it is, right? And I think that like if you fast forward and you give that tool to billions of people, to all of society, and then of course not all of society uses it, but there's a much bigger portion of society that uses it. especially young people that will have trouble finding jobs. I'm not saying this Polsia is gonna make them rich or whatever. It's just like they're gonna maybe have a Polsia, maybe they're gonna have another job. It's just gonna educate them on what's possible, and then they can decide, you know what, I want to go to Da Nang and chill on the beach, or I want to become a creator, or I want to become a builder, or I want to, it made me think, creating this company made me meet another guy, and I want to be an employee for a little bit, but on the side, I've decided idea. Just like now at that point, it's like you have an idea, you give it to something like Polsia, and it just executes, and now you become a superhuman, like who you are when you're able to raise money and hire employees. And the old days, you become a superhuman. You have a team. You're like, you do this, you do that, you do this. This idea, let's do that, right? It's amazing. That's why the great entrepreneurs are sacred. It's like the Steve Jobs. He wasn't doing it himself. He had these ideas and he hired people to do it. In a world where everyone can be like that, and you're gonna find a lot of Steve Jobs, right? Because it's gonna be a lot of like young, not so young, older people that just never created but have great ideas and great insights. And I think that like that was gonna make a very vibrant society where people are more informed, people create more, there's more goods and services, and overall, I think a more educated society makes an amazing society. And I think that's the power of AI. It's like it teaches you so much. I don't know if you use AI a lot, but it's like you learn so much all the time as long as you ask it the right questions. The beauty of Polsia is that it doesn't wait for you to prompt it. It educates you. It tells you, okay, tomorrow we're going to do SEO. What's SEO? Well, let me teach you what SEO is. And by the way, there's like GEO, which is like, for like ChatGPT. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to do blog posts. Oh, why? Well, because da, 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 da. Now you know about a new topic you didn't know about right before. And I think that's super interesting and beautiful.
Yeah, that's a big paradigm shift for a lot of people. Polsia is autonomous. So most people's experience of interacting with an AI involves them typing a question, a prompt into a box, but Polsia prompts itself. So what does that look like for somebody who's never experienced? Their experience of AI is going to ChatGPT, asking a question, almost like a Google on steroids. But Polsia doesn't need that. You set it a goal, you set it a North Star, and whether you log in or don't log in, whether you check, it is just going to be working on that goal. Each day it's going to continue working, driving that goal forward.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's like, that's the paradigm shift, right? And that's why people are noticing and paying so much attention to what I built. It's not because it's AI. Yes, it can code. Yes, it can send emails. But there was support agents on AI before me. There was coding agents before me. But what's unique is that like as exactly as you said, like you go to Polsia, you give it an idea, or not even, you give it your email and just say, I don't know, here's who I am. And then Polsia is either going to take your idea or come up with an idea and start building it. And then even if you're like, oh, okay, whatever, that was cool. And then the next morning is going to send you an email saying, hey, Duncan, like today I built this and this and this, and tomorrow I'll do this. FYI, see you tomorrow. And then you can reply to it, or you're like, oh, what are you doing? Don't do that. Okay, cool. What do you want me to do? And then I'm making it better and better right now because it's like obviously you have more users and more capital, and so I'm like, okay, maybe after a week, if you don't reply, it'll be like, you know what, Duncan, like you told me a little bit that you're in Da Nang. Let me create something for you to make it easier for you to explore Vietnam. Like I can book stuff for you. I don't know. It can do other things for you because it gets to know you, and then you can at any point you click unsubscribe, stop talking to me, and then it goes away. But maybe you just let it run because it's gonna prompt itself based on all the contacts it has, all the memory it has, all the tools I give it as a platform, all the knowledge it has from other people that may be similar to you, what they care about, how they got to their goals. And so maybe your goal it has some similarity to some other goals, and so it can teach you what makes sense and how to get there. And suddenly you got this like entity that like is on your team, that is gonna listen to you, that like is gonna stop doing anything if you don't like it, that's gonna continue if you want to continue, and it will never give up. It's always positive, has a good personality, and I think that's the big difference. It's like it's someone, instead of you prompting AI, it replies. It's like it prompts you and you reply.
You subscribe to the Rick Rubin idea of everyone is an artist. What does that mean to you?
I think it's a very, it's funny because like, so I've been meeting a lot of my customers in person. But it's easy to like respond to an email. It's easy to do a Zoom call. but go meet a customer in person, and go meet one of your viewers in person. It changes things. It changes the paradigm, because suddenly it's like a human to human thing. It's not like, oh, I have like 1,000 followers, 1,000,000 followers, 10,000. It's like you start understanding who's your customer, who's your audience. And so I've been meeting my customers in person, and oftentimes it's people from different walks of life that I've never met. It's just people you may see them in the street passing by, but it's not in your sphere of folks you would meet, in a straightforward fashion. And you meet them and you listen to their ideas and their walk of life, and you get out of it, you're like, everyone has amazing ideas, everyone's smart, everyone, it's like, we're all human, we all have a really complicated brain, and we all have like a lot of experience, and we've seen things, all different things, right? And I think everyone's creative, yeah, because creativity is subjective. So that's Rick Rubin's thing. It's like, I mean, yes, it's everything is so subjective. You know, when you think you have taste, someone else might think you don't. You're like the lamest person, and vice versa, right? It's like taste is so subjective, and so there's a subjectivity in taste. I think when it comes to being a founder, it's a very different thing. I think that like the fact that, like, for example, let's look at America. The fact that we have this American dream. What is the American dream? It's the dream of building, right? Of building yourself from nothing to success. So, I mean, by definition, you sort of have to be a founder, to be like a builder, to like build your life up, right? The fact that it's a common dream shows you that, like, if everyone shares that dream, that means that, like, clearly everyone wants to build, wants to become, right? I think the issue though is people are intimidated because of access to capital, access to information, access to education. When you sometimes there's a pool and you think it's cold, and like you don't want to jump, but once you jump, you're like, it's not that cold, right? Similar to entrepreneurship, it's like you're like, oh yeah, but if I build it and it fails, what's gonna happen? Like, you have a lot of doubt. But if Polsia is like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, and I'm not gonna stop for 30 days. After 30 days, you're like, okay, kind of build the thing, and it didn't work, but at least, I mean, I guess my idea didn't work, and I tried everything, and let me move the other idea, right? So maybe that's too idyllic. I don't know. And I'm not saying everyone needs to become a tech founder and move to Silicon Valley. It's not what I mean. But it's like everyone's a builder. Everyone can build things, have ideas that they can put forward. I think in every layer of the internet, you had like, everyone's a blogger. Everyone can, the tweeting was like the ultimate mini blogging, right? Everyone's a filmmaker, photographer. That was Instagram. Then everyone's like a videographer. That was TikTok. And I think Polsia is like, everyone is like an entrepreneur. And that's, it's just a different take on the same thing.
Do you think taste is immune, or can you envision taste itself being able to be automated somehow in the future?
I think taste is subjective by definition. So for example, like, you've probably like, followed like the 6-7 thing, like, for example, right? Which is like the running joke. Do we agree that like, it's like, okay, it's not that funny? Like, it's not that fun.
For anyone who's not aware, what is 6-7?
It's like, I don't know, there's like, it's like whenever kids hear 6-7, they go crazy and they start making like handshakes, right? It's like, it's not that funny. It's like, and I asked my nephews, I'm like, explain to me why it's funny. Oh, it's funny because it's absurd. Okay, cool. Okay, I guess I get it. Okay, it's absurd, so it's funny. And it's like, who am I to judge? Who gives a shit about my opinion on 6-7? Like, it's like, people like it, people like it. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, taste is so subjective, and taste is one person talking to another person or audience, and that audience connecting to the other person's humor or beauty, version of beauty, right? Um, it's so subjective, and so everyone is part of a community, because we humans, like, even if people don't like, very alone, like, end of the day they live in cities, or like, I mean, there's probably some exceptions where people are in the woods, like, alone somewhere, but most people are, are around humans, and like, have someone to interact with, and they have their common language. And it's not like, I think becoming builders, become entrepreneurs doesn't mean build for a billion people each time. It's like, could be built for micro communities. Maybe you have 100 followers on Instagram on your niche, and then like now you create a tool for them, or you create something for them, or you create like an offline service for them. for example, like I love food and I love restaurants, and I have the capital to open a restaurant, but like the amount of operations to open a restaurant is crazy, and it's a money losing endeavor for sure. Like it's impossible to make money in restaurants because our restaurants they're all artists. That's why I love restaurants. It's like they're artists and they create foods and experiences, right? I'd love to have a restaurant, but like there's no way I cannot go and do it because it's too much work. But if I could give like 100K, 200K to like an AI and say, hey, open a restaurant this for France, and this is my ideas, the food, and like I'll just be the creative director. I'll just come up with the vibe, I come up with the food, and come up with the taste, and come up with the name. That'd be amazing. And of course, maybe I have a little more capital, and so that's my idea of like creating something that I could never build, but everyone at any level could create stuff, right?
Scaling a company to 250 million valuation alone is a psychological feat as much as a technical one. How has this process been on you emotionally?
I mean, I'm tired, dude. I'm pushing the boundaries of how long and how far I can go without hiring employees and hiring a typical team, like having an office with a team. Now I do have proxies because I work for other companies. Because if you go to another startup and you're like, I have like $10 million a year of traffic, of LLM, of API keys, of and I will give you part of that business in exchange. You build for me, like you build your service with me in mind, like sort of like how Palantir builds their analytics dashboard for customers that are like, and they pay them for it, right? So I found ways to have other companies work for me, but sometimes it's not their company, so like they do care, but like they can't care as much as you care. And so I found ways to have people help me in this journey. And like, I have agencies that work for me, but they aren't full-time employees. They're just agencies where like I give them an idea and they come up with, the launch video was done by an agency. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're alone. And to me, it's like the main idea is two things. First of all, the story is amazing. And it's like all the growth since the beginning has come from the fact that I was reaching milestones alone. People are like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm like, okay, how far can I go alone? And I know that every milestone I can reach without, my investors are like, dude, hire employees. What are you doing? Hire a team. And I'm like, trust me, dude. I went that far. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. It's gonna be okay. Like, and if it's not okay, I'll hire. If it's like at one point I crumble, I'll hire. It's okay. Like, it's an easy way to hire. But if I hire, the story goes away. So let me do it. But yeah, it's like what's really hard is that everything points back to me. It's like, an hour ago I was like doing a notary online to sign a legal document, whatever, because I'm the only person who can sign, because I'm the only legal person who can sign a document, right? I mean, that's stupid, but it's like 30 minutes of talking to a notary online to sign a document. I'm like, I guessing in a bigger company, you have like another officer that like can sign and like whatever, you just give it away. Or, all the marketing stuff, I need to approve everything. And it's like, and I have like the YouTube channel, the next marketing stunt, the, the product I need to fix, the support, the AI support, this. So it's a lot. But my customers are in the same shoes. Like they're alone, building alone with AI and a platform that like works, and sometimes there's bugs, and they rely on me or to AI support, and then me behind AI support to fix it. So this sort of it's like I feel like I'm in the same shoes as my customers. I'm sort of like doing what I preach, and for now it's okay. I'm just a little tired, but it's okay.
I find it really interesting the sort of constraints versus freedom, and almost how sometimes how they're like paradoxical. So if somebody just gives you like a blank page and say you can do anything, like just be creative, and the world anything is possible, then often that's debilitating. But if I say to you, come up with an idea and it's got to have a skateboard wheel, a pen, and some candy floss, having those constraints helps you. And so you are at the vanguard of these crazy constraints and just using that.
I think you make a good point, and like is that I'm so constrained, and then since I'm the bottleneck, end of the day, what ships is what's most important, right? and what happens is what's most important. And so I don't get too distracted in a million things because I'm moving forward step by step on what is the most important thing. I became extremely spiritual in the past few years, and I really subscribe to the fact that everything happens automatically. I mean, I believe that everything happens automatically. That like it's sort of like, some religion call that faith, or like destiny, So it's like everything happens automatically, and I don't have a choice. I'm not even acting. I don't have. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's like things just happen, and so what's nice about that theory once you start embodying it is that like you don't question yourself when it happens. You're like, well, I don't know. It is the way it happens. Um, and then that's when the importance of being in flow and the importance of like trusting your gut. When the ego takes over and you think that like you're in control, then you're like, well, let me trust my gut and just go with the flow of what I think it feels right now, and just take really fast decisions based on that, right? Recently, I talked to my investor about, hey, do you think I should do that? Because this other person told me that like I shouldn't do that, but like I feel like I should do that. And he answered me, dude, only listen to yourself. It took you this far. And I remember it's the same investor. I love him. It's Dave Morin. He's like from Offline Ventures. He's like an amazing individual. I love him so much. And he told me, I remember very vividly when I was starting to build Polsia, just before starting build it, I went to him and I was like explaining the whole thing. And I was like, here's all my doubts. Like, what about this? And also, what do you think about that? And he was like, Ben, everything you said made sense. Don't listen to anybody. You're writing an album, just write the album without listening to anybody, and then like just release the album and that's it. Like you will see what happens. Does that make sense? He was like, that was crazy because there was a very important conversation I had with him, and it was a very like, you're an artist, you're writing an album. If you start listening to other people's opinions on your album, it's going to be a shitty album. If it comes from the heart, it's going to be a good album from your perspective, and then we'll see what people think. And then you have no control over what people think. So at least make it cool for you. Make it come from the heart. And since that worked so well, thus far, now I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna listen to anyone. And like it was for the launch video. It was there was a question about, oh, do we talk about the valuation? Do we talk about what do we talk about in that thing? And I was like, end of the day, I did it my way, and like it blew up. So, so I guess that I was right. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just trust my gut, even if it's weird sometimes. Let's just go with the flow. And I think that's what I would advise to anyone. It's like it's hard to achieve because it's so easy to go into the ego, to think, to care about what other people think, because it's very human. But if you can escape that, it's a superpower.
Let's speak to it from the other side when you didn't do that. So you had spent what, like 6 months, a year building apps, and you were in a point of your life when you were just feeling pretty down. You were pretty demoralized because you were thinking about, what do people want? What does the audience want? What does the market want? And all the things that you were building was from that lens, trying to create something for this person out there which wasn't you, and you're creating products which you didn't love, that you didn't feel massive sort of buy into. And so when it wasn't, getting loads of traction immediately, it was extra demoralizing because deep down you didn't really care. It wasn't really your baby.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, it's like I've been selling company for 10 years, and there's a lot of products I built where like deep down I was just doing it because you just when you start companies and you start like building a product, it's sometimes you just build it because I don't know, someone else convinced you to work on it, or maybe you thought it was a good idea at one point, and then you start working on it, and you hire people, and then you're like, actually, I don't love it, and what do I do, right? And then you stuck. And then the question is like, do you pivot, do you move on, or do you stay stuck? I think it's great to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning. The issue is when you get stuck and you don't pivot out. I pivoted so many times in my life, and I think it's actually a good thing to pivot. Meaning, it's like, to me, pivoting is like, it's like what Travis would call like champions hard. It's like when you get pushed down, you get back up all the time. But it's like pivoting. It's sort of like, you try something and it doesn't work, and you're like, you get back up. You're like, you know what? Let's try something else, right? Of course, you don't be frenetically pivoting, but it's like, end of the day, like, end of the day, if you don't feel like working on something, like, it's not gonna work out because it's so hard to build something and to make it work that, like, if you don't love what you do, it's just gonna be so hard, right? Or you're gonna be miserable doing it, which is even worse, right? In 2025, I built so many products. AI empowered me to do so many things, and I was like, in my initial idea was like, oh, wait a second, because essentially I started 2025 by building Instagram accounts with AI videos, and it grew so fast. And I went from like zero to like 500,000 views, sorry, 500,000 followers cumulatively between Instagram and TikTok in like a few months. So I was like, that's crazy. You can get so much visibility online if you use AI the correct way. Then I was like, okay, but all this traffic, where should I point it out? And I was like, well, with AI, I could build any product, right? So I started building all this product, and the idea was like to market them with all these channels. So I was like, I can build infinite attention with AI online, and I can build infinite products. And so then I could, create a business where I could have a ton of cash flows, right? But then that became very boring because it's like, it doesn't, each product don't have a soul, because you're like, okay, what should I do? Well, I guess people want marketing things with AI, so I could build an AI ad service. It's like, you start chasing the wrong thing, because the things that make money sometimes are the things that make money are things that already exist. Things that already exist are boring by definition because they've already been solved by other people. Yes, you can compete and get market share with the better, smarter, like marketing or whatever, but it's inherently uninteresting. It's not a groundbreaking idea because it already exists. And so that's sort of like where I landed when I built like 4 or 5 apps that were all trying to be SaaS that make money. But then I was like, yeah, but I just don't, I'm not putting love into them. So it's like, what's the point? And also, it's not because you build a competitor of like a SaaS that's successful. After that, the marketing part is the grind, right? It's so hard. It's like you have to push every day. So might as well push every day on something that you care about.
Are you optimistic about the future, about our collective capability to embrace, handle, use Excel with this transition?
I'm a pessimist long term. Not about society. I think, The Matrix, right? You've seen that movie. I mean, that's what I believe will happen personally. I don't know if it's gonna be exactly like the Matrix, but like I just don't see the scenario where like we create this like super intelligence and like we tame it, you know? I just don't see. But I also know that like there's nothing we can do about it, because humans just love to build and they love to go to the end of things, right? I do think, but I don't know when that's gonna be. I don't know if like that Matrix thing is gonna be in 100 years. I don't know if we're in a simulation. It doesn't matter because we're in a loop in like the last inning before this happens. Like in the Matrix, by the way, the Matrix sort of tells the story of like humanity living right before the rise of the machines, right? And somehow we're living in that time. How lucky are we, right? We could have lived in any any times in history, and we live right during the rise of AI. Is that crazy? Coincidence? But so that's sort of like my honest opinion on like what will happen. However, what happens before could be hundreds of years. I don't know. I don't know how long it will last, the before. And in that before, I do believe that if everyone merges with AI, not in a physical way like Neuralink things, but like in a just like uses like has an AI just augment them, make them more creative, more powered. I do think you have a smarter society, which means smarter humans, which means like solving more problems, more human to human problems. I think that's what Polsia is trying to do at its scale today. That's the mission at least. And so I think that will create a very a vibrant society, a vibrant human society. Now, I don't know if a vibrant human society would do against a vibrant machine society, if that makes sense, or machine team, or machine, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever their team, a society, like a community, like I don't know what you want to call them. But when it comes to the human society, I do believe that a very well educated, informed, AI powered human society is going to be an amazing society.
Is there anything that you want to leave our audience with?
I mean, when it comes to like what AI cannot do, it depends who you compare it to, right? But if it's to a human mind in front of a computer, I think that there's nothing a human cannot do that AI cannot do. I believe that truly. And so, on that note, what I would say is that like a great way, if you're building a company, whether it's with Polsia or with something else, especially if it's with something else, as you build, don't overhire people, especially at the beginning, right? It's like, oh, because it's like trying to hire people and try to raise capital is a great excuse not to build. It's a great excuse not to move forward and create, right? It's like, well, no, I haven't raised money yet, so I'm not going to start because I'm not. And so stop those excuses and start building. And when you build, you're like, well, yeah, but AI cannot do this. Just try. It's like, yeah, but AI couldn't do enterprise sales. Just try. Give your AI like an email, target people, find leads. That makes sense. And if you start trying to get AI to do crazy stuff, maybe you'll figure out an unknown truth, something that anyone else doesn't know that you can know because you tried. And then you can use that as a service for other people to use, right? Or you can use that to win. And so I think that don't hire, don't raise money, just build first. It's like the first lesson. And second, use AI not for creative stuff. Use AI to get stuff done in a way that empowers you to go faster.